do a class every year with School of Visual Arts, and I think film school. Well,
So watch.
okay. I think film school is a complete waste of time. I think that the people I meet there are clueless, and they're the graduating class, and they are too old to live at home with mom and dad, and they're incapable of supporting themselves when they leave. So that's my opinion of film school. I think they're better working, like, honestly, like I did for free, working on, as a production assistant on real movies and learning film from the ground up. I think there's no shortcut. I think apprenticeship and learning from the ground up is really the key to understanding the business, to understanding the set etiquette, things like that. Also you learn to be 15 minutes early or you're late. Yes, Jim? Now that I dissed your album.
I have nothing to add. I went to the School of Visual Arts for art. I can draw very well. Like I was born with the ability to draw, so I figured I'd be a cartoonist, and that was the best school to go to. And then I saw a movie called Blow Up, and I went, oh, that's another form of art. I never looked at movies that way. So I went into the film school. I learned nothing. And, as far as you start off as a schlepper, like a gopher. You get a job, it doesn't matter, you went to film school, you start off doing the most menial things, but you observe and then you learn. And I can't think of anything practical that I learned in film school. As a matter of fact, when I had success, I went and spoke at NYU, and I was in front of 200 film school students, and I said, how much tuition do you pay? And I didn't realize the faculty was watching, and I said, if you guys can get over who's gonna direct, and who, you're not gonna have an ego problem, that tuition, make a movie. And I got a lot of shit for that, but then I did a movie called Remote Control, and there was a guy named Scott Rosenfeld who had done Teen Wolf, Mystic Pizza, and producer. And he said, he was in that audience. I said, you don't need to do this. Go out to LA and learn how to do it by doing. And he said, he heard me speak, he dropped out of NYU, and that's what he did. Hello. So there you go.
I didn't go to film school. I graduated class of 1980 out of Portland, Oregon, and I decided to go to a film school that paid you, because I like to learn while I earn. And I went to work for Roger Corman in 1980 and worked at his studio with James Cameron, Bill Paxton, Zalman King, Robert Englund, and I learned while I earned for 8 months. And he didn't pay a lot per week, but I learned everything. I learned what people do. I learned all the jargon. I understood the sense of urgency and getting things done and making your day and what a call sheet was. And what you have to do to get your actors out of that trailer after an hour. They don't have that in film school. If she doesn't want to get out of that chair, because every other girl. So you learn by doing it. So, and then I went right from Roger Corman to work on a Vim Vendors movie called The State of Things. And he had the same crew as Roller Boogie. And, but it was like half the crew because Roller Boogie was big budget and Vim Vendors had no money. So it was like a crew of 7 of us, and I learned a lot about the European style with a cinemobile and going out there and grabbing shots and things like that. So I learned while I earned.
The interesting thing that, what is that, New York Film Academy? They caught on to this, and that was their thing. Learn all you need to know in 6 weeks or something, and they blew up. And all the schools hated, all of a sudden somebody's telling the truth. The craft side of filmmaking it's not brain surgery, and you can learn the craft. You can't learn talent. That's the problem. There's not a talent school. So, how do the industry will tell you whether you have talent or not. But as far as the craft, wouldn't you say you can learn everything about screen direction and?
Well, actually, I learned the craft working on porno movies.
Yeah, the same thing. Yeah, but you still need screen direction if this
Exactly.
is going
Well,
in
I'm
this way.
No, but it really was. I mean, I learned on there how to load an Airy 2C, how to work a dog run,
sure.
how to,
Nuts and bolts.
the lighting and all the rest of the stuff. And all that stuff you learn. Well, back then it was all shot 35 millimeter, but that's how I learned.
And you're gonna watch the classic movies anyways on your own. Why study them in school? You're watching them yourself anyways.
Isn't that stupid? The Criterion collection is
Exactly.
so available.
Exactly.
They have to go to film school to watch the
However,
projector.
at the School of Visual Arts when I went, this was the 60s, so there was some drugs in the school. And so we would see Andy Warhol's films came out. And I remember watching Empire State Building. Remember that?
Well, I mean, I didn't go to see it. I knew what it was
Yeah,
about.
well, okay. But how about,
All it was a
how
shot
about-
of the Empire State
No,
Building.
that's where you're wrong. Because the first time I saw it, that's what I thought. However, when you watch it the
Did a
second
bird
time,
fly by?
we sat there. This is film school. We're all stoned. It was, the amphitheater was like a cloud of pot smoke, and we're waiting for the pigeon. That's the only movement in the entire movie. 90 minutes at the Empire State Building in black and white, and then here it comes, because we knew the time, and the pigeon came by. Yeah. That's why I am where I am today.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome Chad Archibald. Just switch the subjects a little bit now. So my next question is, let's say I'm ready to make my backyard zombie movie on my iPhone. In the process of that, I win the scratch lotto, I win $10,000. For each of you, what's your advice? Where would I best spend that windfall? Would I hire professional actors? Would I get
How much windfall?
Let's say $10,000. Let's say I have a little bit of
My suggestion is you go to Vegas and put it on black.
These are my answers.
But what's an underfunded part of making indie movies, in your opinion? Where should focus go? Like I said, sound, hire pro actors, better effects. What are you looking for?
Script.
Yeah.
You left out script.
So that leads me to also say, a lot of you gentlemen also have written your own material. Is that something that you would advise, or take on maybe other people's ideas?
If you're Quentin Tarantino, yeah, you write your own material. If you're not, then you go seek out material.
And how about the other gentlemen? Any recommendations? Write your own stuff. Look for other ideas.
Well, I don't have, I mean, I got into the business. What separated me from, doing we all did all the camera work and the dolly work, and you did everything back then, just to work. And then I had this writing ability, and they told me I had a writing ability. So that's what got me into the business. It's not, I can't tell other people to do this, because what if they can't write? There's other directors that never wrote anything, and they're great directors, so.
I'll have to hire writers myself. The concept of sitting in front of a blank page. I mean, I got a lot of ideas, I got character ideas, titles, thoughts. I like to spitball with the writer, but then I like to just give it to the writer and let them do it, and kind of work on it, develop it together.
Because that's a commitment. Like, if you're going to write a script and you're going to put the effort into something that you're hoping to make and it's going to be good, I mean, it takes time. We've written some scripts in the past, but right now we generally just work on coming up with concepts. It's all about the ideas, so I kind of feel like it's better to spend those 6 months coming up with a bajillion ideas until you find a good one, and then finding someone to write it. But because I mean, you can sit there and try to write a script and spend 6 months on it and it'd be crap and kind of nowhere. But it's fun writing. So.
All right, so another question I want to ask now that Mr. Archibald's here. Several of you gentlemen have your own distribution companies. We've got Underground, we've got Black Fawn, we've got Rabbit Heart. So my question is in this day and age, is this something you would recommend that folks try to distribute their own stuff, or do you think it's something they should try to sell to another distributor? What's your advice on that, Mr. Lustig?
Okay, well, if you're a filmmaker, an active filmmaker, I wouldn't suggest distributing your own films. I do it because I'm not actively making movies. So, because it really is labor intensive, financial intensive, it's every kind of intensive, dealing with distribution, and equally as production is. And you really can't do both.
Okay, Mr. Lieberman, any opinions on?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't, you mean if you're starting out?
Yeah, if you're starting out today, and there's many channels to get it out yourself, there's other, you can apply to.
Well, you know, if you're looking at it on a level, if you want mass distribution, you don't do it yourself. If you want all your aunts and uncles to see your film, that just really is distribution, all your friends, and using the digital, the Facebook and the thing. If you call that distribution, which people actually do, and there's these people that call themselves distributors, they're really aggregators, where they take, you know, they get a deal with iTunes or Amazon, and they bundle up hundreds of movies, and they're not distributing, like in the old days, the distributor actually distributed. They had to buy prints and ads and make deals and bicycle the films around. Now, it's just, here's the movies on digital, here's the buyer who's gonna display on digital, and they're an aggregator in between, right? Am I right about this?
Yeah, look, the thing is, what you expect is that a distributor will use their resources to place your picture in for the widest possible opportunities for it to be bought.
I'm talking about streaming, you know, the streaming.
Well, streaming is mostly transactional.
Yeah.
So it's really a democracy. Once your film is up there, there's really, it's the, you know, whoever wants to watch it will pay for it. Now, when you're talking about other deals, which are license deals, that's an entirely different thing. That's Netflix and Shudder now. Hulu is now transitioning from transactional to licensing. When you're involved with that, then your strength as a distributor becomes important in negotiating those license deals. In other words, if you're a first-time filmmaker going in with your movie, you're gonna get fucked. Because if they even take the picture, you're gonna get fucked. But if you're a company which has some muscle because of all the films that you have, then you can make some money doing those license deals.
So then, Mr. Archibald, any opinions on modern distribution?
Yeah, I mean, we made, I don't know, probably 7 features before we started Black Fawn Distribution. And it was basically just out of the fact that we got screwed on so many territories and so many films. It's like filmmakers are at like the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to distribution. They're kind of like, generally, if you allow yourself to get fucked, you'll get fucked. So I mean, we were just learning how everything worked, and we made a bunch of deals with people who were super passionate, and they were like, yeah, good split. You guys are gonna make a bunch of money in the back end, blah blah blah. And, I mean, I've distributed films through, I don't know, 50 different distributors across the world, and I think I've seen residuals from 2 of them. And so we wanted to start Black Fawn Distribution as just like an experiment, just to see if we could actually, do a fair company. We'll put a lot of work in it, but see if we can actually make money for filmmakers as well. So we did that. Every film that we've ever put out has the filmmakers have seen checks for. I mean, not a ton of money. It's kind of started as like a bit of a side project. And I mean, I think that, like, to answer the question, it's like, if you're a filmmaker and you want to distribute your own stuff, it's hard enough being a filmmaker on its own. Like, you got to give it so much time and effort. It's insane to try to kind of run 2 things at once. So, I mean, we have other people kind of running Black Fawn Distribution most of the time. But it started just because we wanted to see how the model works, so that we knew whenever we went out with our other films. And again, like, we didn't start releasing our own films per se. Like, we picked up other content and released those because we're a small company and you have to be smart about it. If you've got a movie and it costs, I don't know, $500,000 to make, you don't think that your distribution is gonna pay you out for that, then you gotta be smart and go with someone who can. We've been able to get to the point with Black Fawn distribution that we've just started to be able to afford paying for our films that we're making. So Bite was kind of the first release that we did that was a Black Fawn film turned into a Black Fawn distribution deal. So it's an experiment every time we do any of this stuff.
It helps us when dealing with other distributors as well, because we've learned kind of the ins and outs of it.
I started Rapid Heart in '99, after directing movies since '86. I was producing and directing the films, and I would let them off to any particular distributor that would take the films on license. But as streaming and as the DVD business started to change a little bit, I decided to just get vendor status at all the wholesalers, with all the major chain stores, and salespeople that sell direct, and we fulfill, and we have fulfillment businesses we have that get the product to all the customers. Digital there seems to be a new platform every week. So I went through, I had an output deal with E1 for 5 years, and gave them a movie a month, and did very well with them. I also produced and directed a number of films with a producing partner who had an output deal with Lionsgate, did 5 of those. And, but I really like doing it myself because I started in the movie theaters, that's where I worked, and exhibition. But what happens is when you're distributing, 90% of your day is sales. Which I kind of like, actually. So I kind of like, I like selling my own movies, and I like pitching them. And over the 35 years in the business, I've shook enough hands, Bill can attest to this, probably Jeff, you shook enough hands with people over the years that have made a lot of money on your films. So they're willing to take you on and give you vendor status. So they go, oh yeah, those Puppet Master movies, sure, I made a lot of money on it, yeah, we'll take you. So, but also the aggregation business is so different than really being a distributor, because they're essentially functioning as a laboratory, which gets your titles up on those platforms, but it's deadly serious that you point traffic at those platforms. Otherwise, you're just a small ad in the yellow pages. No one's ever gonna see it. So you really have to promote it and send traffic to all those platforms. Otherwise, there's really no money near the end. We also had an arrangement with Netflix for 2 or 3 years that we put some of our family films and some of our horror films there. And I waited on Netflix because I remember when they first started streaming, they were buying finished goods, they were buying DVDs that they were putting in envelopes, and they're still doing that. But they were licensing movies for $200, early on, and because people think, how could you show a movie on the internet? It's impossible, even with broadband. But then that number changed from $200 to $58,000 per title. Then it became a real business. But I was only able to do that through an aggregator. So it's so random, and I do enough films that I can get vendor status, but you have to promote the hell out of these things. Otherwise, there's no real traffic, especially iTunes.
You should explain that people that don't know what an aggregator is, it's not what their cut is and then what iTunes takes and what you wind up with because you did that. I mean, that's another form of contemporary getting fucked.
Exactly. But again, it's also the most random thing too, because some titles they'll take and some titles they won't. It just depends on how busy and how they are that week, or if there's some comparative titles. Like I've been able to get a few titles in the Red Box, which is a really great purchase order to get. But they'll take the most random titles, and I don't know why they would take 1313 Cougar Cult over, a talking cat, but they did. So it just happened to be the week it was released. Comparable titles, and they have an algorithm, and they make it a nickel at a time through their transactional kiosks, and they have a way at a genius to figure out what will sell that week. And I don't know how they do it, but I'm just happy to get the purchase order. So, anyway, that's kind of a random question, but there's just a million revenue streams now, so it's really tough to be specific.
And there's so many people doing it. I mean, if you go and you make a movie for 10 grand and you throw it on iTunes thinking that people are gonna watch it, it's like, it's buried, it's a sea of films out there. If you don't have somebody going and searching for that movie specifically, like, not many people are even gonna stumble on it. It's just, there's so much content being created now, it's like, even in the last, since I started in 2003, we made a movie in Guelph, it was like, no one had really made a movie in Guelph, Ontario, and it was atrocious, like I couldn't give it away today. And, you know, Lionsgate, Alliance picked it up, it was in, you know, stores forever, I couldn't erase it from my life. But back then, it's like, you know, we made a ton of money, and it's like, since then to now, if we,
It's almost ancient history, 2003.
Yeah.
It's changed so much.
it changed, and we were like so excited, we made this movie, and we were like, well, we sold for like 150 grand, we made it in like my backyard, and we were like, this is amazing, like why isn't everyone a filmmaker? And like 5 years later, it's like we're pumping out movies, and everyone's like, oh my god, Rogers Video, Blockbuster, everything's closing down. It's like, it's mind-blowing how much has changed, because so many things closed down, so many things changed in the industry as far as where retailers would even have content, illegal downloading, all that, and then you mix in the fact that there's just like, I don't know, 1,000 times more films being produced. Like I feel like I could I go to the grocery store and I see like my aunt, and she's like, oh no, I'm making a movie now.
I think 26,000 feature films were submitted to Sundance last year. I think it's 26,000 feature films.
So I mean, trying to figure out a way to kind of get your product or your film to kind of rise to the top in the sea of films. You can't just throw it out there and hope that someone's going to see it. You need to
Back it up, you need to push it, you need to.
get eyes on it.
Bill, can I ask you a question? With Blue Underground, which is, if you're not familiar with Blue Underground, it's like the greatest Blu-ray DVD of all time. When you were promoting that brand, what was your most effective form of marketing to really get traction to your titles?
Well, I think one of the most important things was sending out a large list of promos to websites and to bloggers and to press of all kind. I think we send out on every release, we send out over 100 promos, and that's been an effective promotion. Also, secondarily, it's been doing theatrical screenings, doing things like that have been effective. And the standard stuff, putting out stuff on Twitter and Facebook and things like that. But the thing that's different about my company is the films that we're releasing, most of which have already a profile. They're used cars that we go in and we fix up and we put them out.
Right.
And they've already got people that are wanting that film. They want
Already an awareness.
deep red. It's an awareness.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're making a new film, you're having to create an awareness from scratch, which is daunting,
Right.
especially in this crowded world of, this crowded, social media world and everything. But what we're doing is slightly different.
Right.
There are people seeking it out.
Okay, so I knew this time was going to go by really quickly. I wanted to throw it out to the audience. Any of the filmmakers in the audience have a question for the August panel we have here? I have more questions if you guys don't. Excellent, okay. So I'll do, sorry, the gentleman in the back row?
I've got a brief one. Could you speak to like a price point for some of the stuff that you're putting out now that's going straight to video on demand or something like that, something like a 1313 or a Septic Man? I know you said in 2003 you got 150 grand. Are you expecting that these days?
I mean, it's so, like, a lot of the films that we've been doing recently don't have much star power to push them. A lot of them are new talent in the industry, and they're very concept-based. It's like we kind of just, whenever we're coming up with concepts for films, we basically say, if this was the worst film in the world, is it a good enough concept that they could read it on the back and be like, I want to see that?
Well, I think, I'm sorry, you did do Septic Man, did you not, or no?
I produced Septic.
Yeah, I mean, that's, to me, it's a good concept.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I
Say it's shitty.
watched it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just funny, like, we just found that doing films that have a good concept that can draw people in and not a ton of star power, they kind of plateau. It's like, if you make it and it's like, you know, a 3 out of 10, and you make a movie that's like an 8 out of 10, it's like the amount of money that you're really making is, the difference isn't that drastic. Whereas as soon as you throw star power in it, it's also much different, right? Like we always joke that if we had Rachel McAdams and Bite, then we would do, we'd be living a much different life.
Any other questions, gentlemen on the end?
Let's say that somebody made a movie just recently and they have, looks like they have a definite US distribution locked in. Do they have to talk with other people for other, like, would I have to talk with you guys for the film that I have if I want to distribute in Canada, for guys that have outlets in Canada, just in case? Or is that something that I would handle with the other person? Because I'm in the process now of trying to get something moving, and I'd like to examine all the options and things. It was just a question of that. Was that something that I should wait and see what the deal brings, or, you know what I mean? Should I bounce it off of you guys first? Sometimes it's weird because you don't want the other distributor to find out and feel like their toes are being stepped on and everything. It can be. I'm finding that filmmaking, for people that don't know, it's also kind of touchy. It's clicky almost in some ways, and yeah, just like a question for you guys, like what would be the best way to kind of get you guys interested in the film, that kind of thing, like send you a link, etc.
So maybe Mr. Lustig, you can start.
Well, you know, I think the first thing is, you should really align yourself with a really good producer rep, or a sales, or sometimes known as sales agents. And the reason for that is this, is that there is so much crap out there, and that by having a reputable salesperson representing your film means it met a certain threshold, you know, of quality that they're willing to represent it, a Submarine, a Wild Bunch, any of those kinds of quality salespeople will put it on it, will give a perception going in the door that this has value, okay? If you're going in hat in hand as an individual, I mean, your film could be outstanding, I'm not saying it isn't, but it's just, it doesn't give the proper perception of the project.
So you'd want to have to come in there with the full, you'd want to put together a specific pitch for that, and any links and stuff that you have, articles, press, that kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, there should be somebody representing it who's gonna properly present the project. You know, is it a genre film?
Yes.
Has it been playing festivals?
Yes, it's played some once more.
Okay, are they places that anybody, is it Sigis?
No, nothing like that, like,
Right, but you see,
more-
then it's
more horror
meaningless.
stuff, yeah.
Yeah, it's meaningless.
Yeah.
You know, if it's the, you know, I don't know, this Buffalo, but if it's a Buffalo Film Festival, you know, you know, and there's right now film festivals in every corner of the world, you know, it's gonna have it's gonna carry a certain weight. If you won Sigis, if you were in Cannes, you know, it's like when, you know, the Maniac remake got launched in Cannes at a competition, but part of the festival. It created a perception of the film which sold it all over the world.
I think it's my opinion, I'm not a distributor, but I think it's a negative. Satan's Little Helper was the first feature film I made. I was working in everything but for a long time, and I did it in 2004. And I didn't even know from festivals, whatever, and somebody last minute put it into Tribeca Festival, and they took it immediately. And I didn't even know what the value was, and I asked Jane Rosenthal?
Yeah,
Yeah, I said, at the party, I said, is this a big deal? Like, I was skeptical.
You're asking her about her festival, and if it's...
Yeah. This is Jeff Lieberman that's talking. And I said, is this like a big deal? And she said, well, and this is in 2004, she said, you know, we have 100, because I said to her, you have 100 feature films, so what's the big deal? I made a film, and it's in this thing, it's 100, we took 100 films. She said, we had 3,600, this in 2004, 3,600 feature films when you couldn't make a film with a cell phone.
Yeah.
You actually had to spend, not,
Right.
you know, you had to spend money, real money. And she said, in that context, you're 100 out of 300. I said, oh, well, I guess that's a big deal. I went to, I didn't even know about the Fantasy Film Festival circuit. It was like while I was sleeping, all these things happened. And it was, so Brussels, it got Brussels, and it's like huge, huge thing. And then, you know, Citrus and these things. But if you go to like some cockamamie film festival, it's going to have the exact, you're stamping your film negatively. Wouldn't you agree?
It's
Because,
absolutely.
I mean, the Woodstock,
Absolutely. If it's-
Woodstock Film Festival wanted it. I said, what? Woodstock? No. I said no to everything because I quickly figured out which are the major ones that are going to do me some good to brand the movie. So it's like kosher. So like the buyers said, oh, somebody filtered it already.
Exactly.
And that's what he's talking about, a sales rep. It's already filtered. It already has made the grade, right?
It's got pedigree now.
Pedigree.
Yeah.
If you go the other way, it not only, it's detrimental, it works against you. Because they think the same thing. It's like, well, you're saying that Tribeca didn't want you, Sundance didn't want you, and you're in the, you know, some little film festival you paid an admission to get into.
Yeah, a
And
lot of these
that's a
film
big-
festivals make money by the submission
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, that's what we're in business to do.
That's-
Quality over quantity festivals, for sure.
That's an entirely different conversation.
Right.
Oh my God.
Rodney
I don't even think they're
Dangerfield,
watching these movies out of these festivals.
Rodney Dangerfield summed this all up years ago. He said, it's tough out there, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So do we have any other questions? Any other questions from the audience? Is there one there? Okay, so I'll throw in another question of my own. So some of you are not making films currently, some of you are making films currently. What is something, and I don't know if you guys watch a lot of indie movies these days, what is a classic mistake that you see over and over again that frustrates you? If there's one mistake that you can say, you see it all the time and you just wish it didn't exist anymore. So let's start on the end. Let me start with Mr. Decoteau. What's one mistake you see?
I don't watch movies anymore. I watch documentaries. It's I hate to say it, but I'm so I hate going to the movie theater where somebody brings their baby or there's cry. I'm so like, maybe it's ADD and I just have to focus. I got a big screen TV and I like documentaries. My taste has changed since I was a little kid. But I direct a lot of movies and they're all scripted, but I love documentaries. So probably the last movie I'm trying to catch up on all the classics, you know, on TCM and things that I should have been watching years ago. So I'm trying to catch up on those. Mistakes, boy, it's so, I don't know how to answer that. I don't know how to answer that.
That's cool, that's not a problem. So maybe Mr. Archibald, what's something that you see with indie films that frustrates?
Well, I mean, I think script for one, there's so many people that are so eager to make a movie that they write whatever down and just run out and start making it. So I mean, like we see a ton of indie films that are just, they just don't have, the script just wasn't ready to film. And I mean, it's like, you know, if you want to go out and make a movie, absolutely. But definitely don't get overexcited with your script and just start shooting whenever you think it is. A lot of people, they get a script done and they won't show it to other people because they don't want to take the criticism. They don't want to hear that, you know, this character doesn't work and that doesn't work, and, you know, they get upset by hearing like criticism and then they just stop sending it to other people. It's like when we get a script done just from years of making movies and hearing reviewers rip them apart, we write a script, we send it to everyone that has good input. And if somebody says, no, the script was great, it's like you're off the list. It's like only people who are gonna come back with like input on what doesn't work and what's going to help make it better. Again, it's like there's a sea of indie films out there right now. It's the concepts are the most valuable part of it. So I mean, come up with a good concept and good script, take your time on it, and then make your movie.
And Mr. Lieberman, any advice?
Talking about like a mistake?
Yeah, just something you see in predominantly indie film, but even with regular film, something you see.
Well, I would say it's all in one word, and it makes me nauseous to say it, homage.
I was gonna say derivative.
Same shit, it's French, right? The idea that you say, I have an idea for a movie, it's an 80s zombie thing with a thing and a combination of a concoction. Doesn't it occur to you that anybody at the supermarket could say the same thing? I mean, it's so alien to me to think that way. And I say, this is a piece of advice that only goes for me, take every single thing that you've seen that has been done, throw it out. They don't need you to do that again. They don't need you to do an homage or to recycle it or to remind you, oh, that's a reference to West Coast. Fuck that. Anybody can do that. Especially anybody can do it if you've got digital cameras, nobody's going to stop you from doing it. If you had to go through the process that Bill and I did back in the 70s, you have no chance. You have to be original. So if you look at a white page and you're going to write, you're going to wind up with a white page, meaning you threw out every single thing that everybody has done. What are you going to do? That's where you start. That's what I've always done. So people say, Lieberman, you're so original. It's got nothing to do with good or bad. But my films are not derivative of other people's work. If you can do that, you're going to win. If you can't do that, do something else. That's my personal opinion. You can say, go fuck yourself. That's what I think.
It's like you have to decide if you want to run a fan page or make a fan page.
That's another way to put it in a few words.
I can tell you what excites me. It excites me when I see a genre movie and it takes, I mean, look, let's face it, genre films for the most part are ritualistic in one way or another. And, but when it has an original vision, like I saw a film a couple of weeks ago in Strasbourg, France called Raw, R-A-W. It's a French movie. It'll be coming here, I'm sure, soon. If you guys maybe have that.
Play
Was
Tiff,
that
yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's right, it was a TIFF, I forgot. It's a wonderful horror film. Have you guys seen it? Anybody seen it? Do you guys agree? I mean, I thought
Oh, yeah.
that movie just blew me away at its originality and you know, it's a wonderfully made film. Not made for a lot of money, it was made for under $3 million, and it was a beautiful looking film, really well acted. I saw some others, you know, that that had a lot of attributes, but had also some flaws. I thought there's a movie called Pet, that's coming out. I don't know if it played at TIFF or not, but it was, and I'm Not a Serial Killer. Have you guys seen that? Yeah. Wasn't that an interesting film? You know, that's what gets me excited, when I see something that has some really interesting elements in it. Sometimes, you know, it's not a perfect movie, but it holds promise for the next film that person is going to make. I want to watch it. And you know, and when I see people who just seem like they're clueless, and they go out and they, as you said, they're making homages, and you know, it's all derivative, and they keep talking about, you know, cameras and this and that. You know, you already know that they're just you know, technicians at best.
I saw, there was a movie.
Not filmmakers.
There was I was on the jury in Neuchâtel, Switzerland.
Another good festival, by
Yeah.
the way. You should,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, no, I
Neuchâtel
mean,
is very
that's the
good.
thing. And they were doing a retrospective of my films, and I was the head of the jury, which is, you've been the head of the jury. It's a weird
I
thing.
was,
because-
a few weeks ago, I was a
Yeah,
president.
it sucks.
I was president for 10
Because you
days.
can literally, some of these prizes in Neuchâtel was 60,000 euros, which before the euro went down, so
And
it's
I
a lot of money.
I said I'm open to bribes.
Yeah, you're losing my material. I actually said that. I said, I can be, and I saw this film called Citadel, Irish. I don't know if anybody saw it,
Is it the one
but
with the kids with the hoodies?
Yeah.
yeah. And I knew nothing about it, and you know what? I think your remake was at Citrus. It was one of the competition.
Which, Maniac?
Yeah,
What, Neuchâtel?
yeah. Shit, I just dug myself a hole, I didn't realize it. And I saw.
I could use the 60 grand.
Yeah. No, well, you would, well, yeah, oh, shit.
No, I wouldn't have that.
So anyway, and I see this film done for nothing, and it's the ghetto area in Ireland or something, and I was mesmerized. I've never seen this before. This is a fresh idea. The guy was agoraphobic. He didn't want to go out of his apartment because his wife got raped. She was pregnant. Remember that? It's like, this is real horror. This is, I said, I doubt any other film I'm going to see. And he won the top prize. And then I thought, well, this is not all about me. I swayed my jury. I said, you don't vote for this film, I'm going to kill you. And so they won the top prize and gave it 60,000 euros, and it won every festival after that because they saw the same thing. Sitges, top film. It was fresh, and I don't know what he's done since then, but I've never seen anything like that. Another movie that Julian Schnabel did, the Butterfly and the Diving Bell and the Butterfly. Do you know that film?
I know of it.
Yeah. Did you ever see that? To me, that's the most effective horror movie I've seen contemporary in the last 20 years. And people say, why is that a horror movie? Well, watch it. It's, first of all, it's real. Like if you say the word cancer, scares you more than any horror movie will ever, one word, right? So what is horror? And he took a real subject, and the way he handled it, I went 2 weeks without keep thinking about that movie. More than any James Wan. I love those movies, but it's fiction. I've been there, it doesn't affect me emotionally. So you have to look somewhere else if you want to be original. That's my opinion.
Excellent. All right, so like I said, the time is flown by. We can get one more question in, either from the audience or myself. Anybody, any questions? A gentleman with the sunglasses?
We've talked so much about film festivals over the last little while, especially Sitges, which is an incredible festival. I got to go last year for my first time. Do you guys have, and since Toronto After Dark is kind of going on right now in Toronto, do you guys have a favorite festival that you guys always like to show or show a movie at or attend, or you find that a festival has an incredible vibe? Kind of a question for all four of you.
I mean, truthfully, all the festivals I've been to, Neuchâtel, Sitges, recently Strasbourg, I'm trying to think of some others, I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple, but I mean, they're all really great, and they treat you wonderful, and you know,
Brussels.
oh, Biff, yeah, Biff is great. I mean, you know, they're...
You get your own car if you haven't filmed that. Get a driver in the car.
But it was, those are all great film festivals and great places to launch your film, if they accept it. And they're really, you know, they've got standards, you know, they're not, they don't take everything.
Oh, no.
Mr. Lieberman, a favorite festival, something like
Well, the one, you know, from my point of view, it's like, which is the best parties and which is the best clubs. And the one that has the most money, I think, is Biff, is Brussels. And then you get a car, and you get a driver, and you go anywhere you want, and
Cheers.
right?
Where were you gonna go? You were guessing. Oh, you went to Bruges.
And Larry Cohen and Dario Argento were there, and Paul Schrader. That's fun.
I like Neuchâtel because they have that hotel right on the lake.
Yeah, that's
nice.
true. That's okay. Perk for perk. You didn't want to go perk for perk here?
Yeah. I just didn't like hiking up the hills, I swear.
Mr. Archibald, you were at Toronto After Dark a couple nights ago, if I'm not mistaken. Again, in your experience, what film festivals?
I actually got married at Sitges last year during the festivals. So it's got a special spot for me for sure. I went to Taipei Film Festival a couple of years ago, and it was just a mind-blowing experience. I don't know if it's more so that it was just such a different culture, but it was so interesting. They gave me a translator, they gave me like a vehicle with them and drove around everywhere. It was great. I mean, Toronto After Dark, I love that festival because we're playing at it right now, and they've always been so good with us, and it's so much fun to have a festival that plays in a great venue that's in your kind of hometown, and you can kind of bring everyone out to it. So we have Letter Out, which played there on Friday, and then we have Fed of the Dead, which is playing there tomorrow.
And then Mr. Decoteau?
I like the film festivals that have a market also. Like James doing, like Cannes and Meatfed, which is so sad. I miss Meatfed. That was a
No
great.
more Meatfed?
No, Meatfed's over. I know. The AFM movie days.
20 years.
Gone. But great. I like those kind of film festivals. There's a lot of commerce being done. So it's my movie. Yeah, I just remember there was a, I'm just curious how a Sundance evaluates 27,000 feature films that have paid to submit their films. I'm just curious.
Fast forward.
Yeah. Saw a very interesting documentary a couple of years ago called "Your Film Has Not Been Accepted" or "Your Film
Rated?
No,
Rated?
not rated. No,
Oh.
that's a great one too. That's very good. It's a documentary about film festivals, and this one filmmaker wanted to, submit to a bunch of film festivals, and he thought, well, how could all these, it cost $100 to create, or whatever, $50 or whatever it is to submit your film, and so he took 100 blank DVDs, created a press kit, wraparound, DVD wrap, the whole thing, and submitted to 100 film festivals. And half of the DVDs came back saying, sorry, but this DVD is blank. And the other half were rejection letters. I'm sorry, the film does not follow our. And so I kind of
I thought
think.
you were gonna say we accepted.
So when I realized that, there's a lot of film festivals out there, and I live in LA a good chunk of the year, and there's a ton of these horror festivals and things like that, but I don't know. I mean, again, I guess getting a review quote at the festival. My big concern, though, is when, for example, there was a very big film festival in Texas, and a filmmaker friend of mine.
Oh, a Fantastic Fest.
Yeah. No,
Nobody's mentioned
This
that.
is a different.
No, but that's
the
like
one in
high
Montreal.
on that's like number
Montreal
one in
is-
North
yeah,
America.
exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic Fest.
His film got accepted, and they said, "Okay, can you send us 100 or 200 screeners to send to the press, and to get reviews, to get people to show up to the film festival?" And the screeners ended up in the wrong hands, and the movie was on YouTube within 24 hours.
Oh,
And that's the killer, because, I mean, you're shooting yourself in the foot sometimes. You just have to really make sure, even if for screening purposes only, you just have to, with these film festivals, you have to think, it has to be real media sources, because these movies, once it's on YouTube, it's over. And once and then it's on all the torrent sites and everything, and your film hasn't even been picked up yet. So you have to be very selective. So that's just my view of film festivals.
I mean, the real film festivals don't distribute press DVDs. They have press screenings, and the press has to
Exactly.
come to the screening
Right.
for that very reason.
Exactly.
So, the time, I think, has passed us by. We've scratched the surface, but I think all four gentlemen, you're gonna head back upstairs and be available to chat with and sign.
Sure.
So, nobody's gonna run away and figure out his family. So let's get a big round of applause.